friends, it's Gwen. I know how much you love them and it's been a while, so today I'm back with a Maggie Holmes Monday share. I'm using Woodland Grove, and yes, it still counts as a stash bust even though this is a new collection because it's in my stash, and if it's in my stash then it's still stash busting. As always, I'll share my tips, tricks and ideas along the way, so let's get started. I'm also working with this cut file from Cut to You. I will leave all the details in the description box below for it, along with all the other supplies that I'll use in today's layout. This is a full 12 by 12 inch cut file, and I'm going to use 3/4 of it on this layout. I'm going to attach it onto my background without backing it. If you're brand new to working with cut files, or you're a little short on time, this is a great way to use them on a page. I really love the white on white look. It adds this beautiful texture to the background. I'm working with this super fun photo of my daughter, and I do have a plan. I'm going to use the cut file to anchor all of my elements, and I want to leave that bottom area of the layout empty. It's going to act as white space. The photo that I'm working with today is 4 by 3, and that's a great size to pair with journaling cards. Sometimes when I'm working with a small photo like this one, it's difficult for me to fill up a full 12 by 12 page, especially when I'm only working with a single photo this size. If I had additional photos, they would be great to add to this page, but I don't. So I'm going to replace those extra photos with some journaling cards. Here's a look at the basic design for the page. I just want to run the journaling cards across that middle section there. I am gluing things to each other here with my ATG, but nothing is going to get glued down to the background of the page. At least not just yet. I will want all of the elements to be very centered on the page, and I don't know yet how far extended these clusters are going to get. I don't know if I want to put an extra piece of paper, say, on the right there, and until I really nut out the structure of these things, I don't want to commit to adding them to the background. So essentially, I'm going to build 2 independent paper clusters. I'm going to get them looking good, and I'm going to really have a clear idea of how far out they're going to extend, and then I will add them to the background here. Of course, I have my trusty T-square ruler out. I do want to make sure everything is nice and straight. That cut file design is a geometric, so if anything's crooked, it's going to be very obvious. I'm also paying a lot of attention to those green edges on the left and the right. They are actually the same distance away from the edge of the layout on both sides. So yes, it's very, very centered. With the base of the layout sorted, I do want to now move on to embellishments, and I will start with the largest ones first. This is a really good time to add in tags, and I love to tuck them in between the layers that I've already built. Be sure to trim off any excess because you'll be able to tuck that into paper layers as well. Sometimes I even split these elements over multiple pages. Now is also the perfect time to add in elements that are made of chipboard. Sometimes the chipboard elements in the Maggie collections are quite big, so it's nice to think about where they're going to go sooner rather than later. I really like them to sit flat, and sometimes that's not possible if you add them too late in the process. The other thing I wanted to mention here was you might notice that this is a back to school or a school photo, and I am not using a school themed collection. I prefer to use much more generic general collections and then adapt them to fit the photo that I'm working with. I'm working on a video that talks a lot about this and how you don't actually need themed collections to scrapbook very themed photos. Be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss that. So back to the layout, and I do want to build out the cluster that's under the photo here. I'm not exactly sure at this point where I want to put these florals, so I'm going to audition them in a couple of places. I do get a lot of questions about clusters, and a lot of it is trial and error. My first tip will always be to copy what you like. So if you see a cluster in one of my layouts, try and replicate that with the supplies that you have. The second thing I would add is that you need to be not afraid to cover things up. To get a layered cluster, you have to layer elements on top of each other, and that means that unfortunately you are going to cover up some pretty things. It's a small sacrifice for the greater good. The third thing that I will add here is to audition. You need to audition all the things in all the places. Every time you try an element in a cluster, you're learning and you're experimenting, and both of those things are excellent for the clusters that you'll make into the future. I know I need to make a full video on this. If you would like to see that, please let me know in the comments below. So while I've been talking about clusters, I have finalized the medium-sized elements. I now want to move on to the smaller things. You can see here too, I went with the flowers on the right. I put them there for a couple of reasons. I feel the flow for this layout is definitely left to right across the center of the page. And when I have a layout that has a flow like that, I want there to be a kind of a full stop, a final resting place for the eye, and the floral cluster there on the right is going to do that. The leaves in the flowers are also going to help me balance out the green. So I am going to try and do a bit of a visual triangle. The green in the tag above the photo is 1 point. The green of the leaves and the tag underneath the photo will be the 2nd point, and then there will be a pop of green over here on the left. It is not a coincidence that the bow that I am fussy cutting is in that same deep dark green shade. I'm all about them bows, and this one is going to go onto the left-hand side of my layout. One of the little tricks that I use to make my layout feel really put together is to replicate elements in my clusters. So guess what? This layout gets a 2nd bow. Yay! I am going to add it here on the right, and I have popped it up on some foam tape for dimension. Things are getting serious because I'm gluing stuff down. Whenever I get a new collection into my stash, I actually peel off the backing adhesive from all of the chipboard pieces, and that means that I can audition them as much as I like and then add a liquid glue to stick them down when I'm ready. I was pretty happy with how this was looking, but then I realized it was all very papery, which I know sounds hilarious because it is a scrapbook layout, but it needed a puffy sticker. The collection does actually have quite large ones, so I did find this floral element, and I did have to do a bit of a sneaky and chop some of it off because my photo is raised up on foam, so I wasn't able to tuck it underneath the photo. No problem, just trim off the excess. Of course, I want to share with you all of the close-up details for the layout so you can see the stitching on the photo. I've also added that to the frame of the page. Here are the pretty paper layers. The deer there is a chipboard element, and you can see on the left there that really super cute green bow. If you like the way that I scrapbook or the way that I chat about the way that I scrapbook, I would love it if you give this video a thumbs up and let me know in the comments if you'd like me to do a more in-depth video on creating clusters for layouts. It's super fun and easy to stash bust brand new supplies, but what about those supplies that are a little bit older? I have 25 ideas to share with you in this video right here, and what's even better is that they all use Maggie Holmes collections. So if you have as much Maggie in your stash as I do, you're gonna love it. I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, bye!